You're listening to the Baumbastic Podcast with Andrew Ellis on Inside Arkansas.
And what's going on, everybody, and welcome back to the Baumbastic Podcast presented by Inside Arkansas and hosted by Andrew Ellis. It is a beautiful Monday, March 24th. The Razorbacks are the number 2 team in the country. They're 23-2, the best start in program history. The Diamond Hogs are hot, guys. They are scorching hot. And so, of course, here on the Baumbastic Podcast, where we cover all things baseball, we had to do a little talk about this weekend and all the crazy action that ensued. Arkansas goes 5-0 at home this week, a very productive week at the office at Baum Stadium. They run rule Oral Roberts in the Wednesday game, battled a little bit in the Tuesday game. Very bad weather there. They sweep South Carolina in very impressive fashion, have a 7-inning run rule on Friday. In the middle of Arkansas's NCAA tournament game on Saturday, they get a 12-3 win, and then they explode, win 11-4 on Sunday, went into the 8th inning, tied 4-4, wind up winning that one very comfortably. So all around good weekend. Hard to sweep any team in the SEC. I don't think South Carolina is going to be a team that finishes near the top, but it's hard to sweep anybody. And so this is one. And going into the weekend, we kind of said it's a little bit tough to do these series where you're kind of just projected to dominate your opponent. It's a little bit of a tough spot for the Diamond Hogs, but it's one that they're in a lot. And so it was good to see them go out there and take care of business. And again, the kind of story of this season so far has been the offense, which has been one of the most dynamic lineups in the entire country, definitely in the SEC. The numbers show that. We're going to talk about that a little bit. But I continue to be very encouraged with what we're seeing from the Arkansas Razorbacks. I think coming into the season, obviously we knew they were going to be pretty good in the regular season. They're always good in the regular season. But you always have this postseason monkey kind of hanging over, and you're like, okay, is it really going to be that different? And who knows? It remains to be seen. We're still going to see how this team adjusts to some tougher competition in SEC play, adjust to just the ups and downs, the ebbs and flows of a season, and ultimately how they can fare in the postseason. But I think most of you would agree that the encouragement from the offense has been it's been notable. I mean, they've been very good. The numbers back it up. Again, we're going to dive into some of these numbers. But in terms of us coming into this regular season looking for how is this team different? Are they really any different than these other 2 teams that have choked in the postseason? And whether or not they end up choking in the postseason or going to the Omaha or whatever, I think we can all agree this is a different team. One, it's got different pieces in the lineup, different players, a little bit different personality to it. And hell, even in the pitching side, there's some new names that have come through and been huge for Arkansas. So there's a little bit of a different identity. They're absolutely not as reliant on their pitching and defense. In fact, the pitching is probably the one thing that we're all maybe a little concerned about and waiting to see that turn around. But again, I just continue to be very pleased with the direction of this team. Hard not to complain. I mean, hard not to be pleased with a 23-2 start, a 5-1 start to SEC play. That is the best start in program history through 25 games. So very impressive stuff. They've taken care of business more often than not, and they've looked really impressive doing it. And there's been a lot of easy margin of victory, man, which is just something we're not really used to. We've seen Arkansas whip up on some teams in midweek competition. We've seen some Arkansas, dominate some SEC games here and there, but we don't really see Arkansas just roll the balls out there and dominate opponents the way that they had dominated South Carolina this past weekend, the way they dominated Oral Roberts, a potential NCAA tournament team. I thought that was also pretty impressive as well. And so, again, there's going to be tougher tests for this Arkansas Razorback team starting next weekend with a really, really tough series on the road against number 14 Vanderbilt, who I believe just swept the Texas A&M Aggies, who are off to a tumultuous start in SEC play. But again, I can't wait to see how this team fares against some better competition, but very pleased so far. I also want to give everybody a little bit of an update. So, of course, if you've noticed, if you only listen to the Baumbastic Podcast and don't pay attention to anything else we have going on at Inside Arkansas, one, I appreciate that because I love baseball. It's kind of my baby. It's what I love to do. But if you have been missing out on everything, of course, the Arkansas Razorbacks are in the NCAA men's basketball tournament. They are on to the Sweet 16 to take on Texas Tech in San Francisco. It's 2:51 p.m. right now as I'm recording this in Fayetteville Central Time, by the way. In about 12 to 13 hours, John Curtis and I will be getting in a car or a truck, heading to Dallas, flying out of Dallas, going to San Francisco to cover that. And so the madness lives on, the craziness lives on. It's had an obvious, effect on our bombastic schedule here and the way we do things. But ultimately, I'm a company man. I also love Arkansas basketball. I've been on all these post games and stuff. And so it's been cool to be a part of this journey for the first time. But I apologize to all of you guys who, again, love your baseball and want to know what's going on with the baseball team and probably watched the baseball team this past weekend and were waiting on me to do something. And I did a post game recap for game 1. Game 2 was literally in the middle of Arkansas versus St. John's. It was going to be really tough for me to pull off anything. And also, like, just to be honest with you guys, this time of year, when we do basketball content, it does crazy numbers, brings in a lot of revenue, brings in a lot of things. Baseball, not as much. That doesn't mean I'm going to stop doing it. It just means that's kind of with the schedule, with the way everything's been going on. It's been a little bit tougher for me to get in front of a camera and sit down and do some bombastic baseball content. But I will say, I got to give myself a little bit of credit. Been completely tapped in on baseball. Have not missed a pitch. Literally was sitting there inside the Amica Mutual Pavilion, just on my phone, watching every single pitch. Thankfully, Arkansas scored 8 runs in the first inning on Saturday, which allowed everybody. I'm sure a lot of you were in the same type of situation where you're trying to keep up with baseball, also got your eye on basketball. And so it's a little bit tough, but this time of year, that's what you want. You want to have some of that. And so there's still going to be a little bit of that. Like I said, tomorrow we're traveling, and so we'll see what the schedule looks like for Baumbastic, but I'm not abandoning you guys. Absolutely, at the bare minimum, going to have a weekend preview, going to dissect some of the things going on with this Razorback baseball team, and we're going to continue to have some episodes. I just wanted to get that on you guys' radar because I've seen a few people, which it makes me happy when people are like, hey, man, where are the Bombbastics at? Usually, sometimes I feel like I'm talking into the void. I see the numbers, it's not doing great. And I'm kind of like, nobody's really feeling baseball this time of year. They'll get more excited later. But it always makes me a little bit happy when I see people being like, hey, man, where the hell's Baumbastic at? But I hope you guys can understand and empathize with the situation. And of course, we're all excited for the basketball postseason, for the March Madness. It's going to be fun. But I don't want you guys to think I'm abandoning you. I am absolutely not. And I'm definitely going to be dialed in on every single pitch of this Arkansas baseball season, no matter what, come hell or high water. And they'll be on the road this weekend. So it'll be a little bit, maybe that'll help kind of make it easier. I don't know. But excited for the weekend ahead for basketball and for baseball. But before we get into today's episode, I want to remind you guys, we got a new sponsor here at Inside Arkansas, Basis Health. They are bringing you today's show. Basis Health is changing the way healthcare is delivered by providing mobile medical visits at the comfort of your home. A doctor will come to your home for urgent care, primary care, IV hydration, and more. Basis Health, they are there for you where you need them most. Learn more at basishealth.org today. Shout out to our guy, Dre, who's been super supportive, super cool. We appreciate all he does for Inside Arkansas, and we're excited to have them on as a sponsor, man. They've been a big part of helping get us to some of these postseason trips and helping us bring you guys the coverage. And we really appreciate all they do and everything. And so if you're like me and you don't like actually going to the doctor, shout out to Basis Health. They will come to you. So shout out to them. They've been very good to us, like I said. So today's show is going to be a little bit of a quasi weird one where, like, normally on a Monday, I do my weekend winners where I just go through the 5 individual performances that really stuck out. And it's, about a 25, 30-minute episode. We're basically going to still do that. I still have 5 weekend winners for you. But we're also going to kind of do like a quasi recap of the weekend, not a recap in every game. We did a little bit of a recap for game 1. You guys, frankly, the games weren't that interesting for the most part. Arkansas took care of business, whipped up on them pretty good. Basically needed 1 inning to beat them in games 2 and game 3. But we're going to kind of just reassess where we're at with this Razorback baseball team. A little bit of a state of the union moving forward. We're also going to look at our Circle of Trust rankings, and we're going to talk about all of that. But before we do any of that, let's get into our winners of the weekend. And we also aren't going to do the one-by-one thing. I'm just going to kind of briefly run through these things here for a second. Try not to make this too long. Sometimes I get into trouble where I ramble for too long. I lose you guys a little bit, but I appreciate you guys sticking with me sometimes. So here are our winners of the weekend. So first off, we got to go with the Razorback catcher, Ryder Helfrich, who had maybe one of the best weekends of his entire career over the weekend for the Arkansas Razorbacks. Goes 6 for 12, hits 2 home runs, both of which came in Arkansas's series finale on Sunday. Drew a couple walks, drove in 3 runs. I guess both of his home runs were solo home runs, but they were both worth noting. Scores 4 runs as well. This is for a catcher. So really, historically, I know baseball's changed a little bit. Historically speaking, you're not expecting your catcher to be your top hitter. Like, just most teams are not constructed that way. Ryder Helfrich's unique because I think coming into the year, we all kind of expected he might take on a pretty big offensive load for Arkansas. Hasn't gotten off to the greatest start in his sophomore year, and of course, struggled a good bit as a freshman. And so I joked on Inside Arkansas Live today that Ryder Helfrich is not a super fan favorite. I think I've alluded to that on this podcast. Of all the, there's a lot of people out there on the internet who take it upon themselves to tweet at me anytime they get mad at a Razorback baseball player. Nolan Souza, of course, is the one that typically they're getting mad at because I've hyped Nolan Souza up and said he's the man and he's going to be awesome. And so they have obviously not been pleased with his performance, although Nolan Souza starting to get it going a little bit. I think he's settled in now at this point. He's hitting 263 in SEC play. Maybe not a star, but has been a productive piece at the bottom of the Arkansas lineup, been really good defensively. So those have calmed down a little bit. But I get a lot of tweets that basically are like, at Andrew Ellis, hey, this guy sucks. Why is he in the game? Oh, hey, this pitcher sucks. Why is he in the game? Why is Will McIntyre throwing? Why is this happening? And I get a lot of those tweets. And Ryder Helfrich's a name that I get tweeted at me a lot. People saying, hey, man, why don't we bench Ryder Helfrich? I hate this guy. Why don't we play Becker? He's way cooler, which is funny because last year around this time I was getting, hey, I hate Hudson White. Why don't we play Ryder Helfrich? And so I imagine when Zane Becker is a junior, we're going to be doing the same shit with him where we're like, Zane Becker sucks. What about this freshman catcher? Why don't we, it's just kind of the way the world works. The backup quarterback's always the most popular player on the team, but it's actually kind of bugged me a little bit how few Razorback fans like Ryder Helfrich. One, like I like Ryder Helfrich. He's an alum of the Baumbastic podcast. We had him on last year, me and Daniel Shee. But also, I just feel like as a catcher, you're going to go through ups and downs offensively, and you kind of have to live with it. I know that's a little bit frustrating, but you guys got to understand, like, Ryder's caught almost every single SEC inning, and really most weekend innings, period. This past weekend, they were able to actually get him off his feet a little bit because they had some blowouts. So we got to see Zane Becker go in there. But like catching 27 innings in 3 games is just a hard thing to do. And he does it at a high level, by the way. Every now and then he gets a little jittery back there. I was actually talking to John and Curtis about this yesterday. Like skill set wise, Ryder Helfrich has every possible skill set you can imagine, offensively, defensively, whatever. You want to throw an arm? He's got that. You want power? He's got that. He's got some good bat to ball skills, evidenced by the fact that he hits a foul ball 109 miles an hour every single game. Like he does strike out a good bit, which a lot of these Razorbacks tend to do. I believe Ryder's top 2 or 3 on the team in strikeouts. A little bit boom or bust, but I mean, from a skill set standpoint, kind of does it all. Really good at blocking pitches behind home plate, really good at receiving. The receiving is kind of the big thing that they love about him. They feel like he steals 2 or 3 strike calls every game at minimum. The team's numbers that they have, the analytics there, because they have the strike zone, the TrackMan, they're able to see that, and they feel like Ryder Helfrich is a big deal in terms of the receiving and handling the staff. And I feel like anytime Ryder Helfrich makes a mistake, it's almost never due to physical ability. Sometimes he gets a little too sped up back there. We see that a lot. We saw that happen in his freshman year a lot. Hell, last year when Ryder was a freshman catching in the fall, we almost never saw him let a ball get by him. Like, when you're out there just kind of letting your talent take over and you're just playing ball, you look at the guy and he's unreal. He, like I said, he has all the skills, but every now and then we see that, the young guy, especially last year as a freshman, maybe in his own head a little bit, maybe getting sped up. A couple weeks ago, there was a pop fly behind home plate, and he tried to catch it and then was going to try and throw someone out and then end up dropping the ball because he was so worried about the runner. And you just see that happen with Ryder. And I get why that's frustrating, especially when you're a catcher. It's an unforgiving position. Every mistake you make is magnified. And so I understand why there's some fans who get annoyed and they're like, oh, this guy's, come on. You can't let that ball get by here. And when there's a runner on third and all that. And so I get all that. But again, the skill set is what I keep coming back to. And he's making strides. He's getting better week in and week out. And I think Arkansas, of course, relies heavily upon him. Not only is he catching and doing all the work defensively and starting to get going at the plate a little bit, he's also calling pitches for the staff. He might not call every single pitch. They'll give him some feedback here and there, but it's kind of Helfrich's job to know each pitcher, know what counts they like, what pitches they like to go to in which situations, how they like to attack these hitters. So there's a lot going on back there. People see Ryder Helfrich strike out and they're like, man, bench him. But if you're benching him, you're basically asking a freshman to now do all of these tasks and responsibility. Oh, and by the way, when the freshman starts facing SEC pitching, he's probably going to strike out a little bit too. And so it's kind of been like a ongoing process with Ryder Helfrich. But so far this season, The dude's got a 923 OPS, and you guys know OPS is kind of my favorite baseball statistic in terms of a hitter's output because it takes into account the on-base percentage, the slugging. It's really hard to have a high OPS and not be, to BS your way. Not that you can BS your way to a 300 average over the course of a season, but, there's infield singles, there's bloop singles, there's things of that nature. And so I feel like over the course of a season, OPS really tells a story because if you're getting on base at a high rate or you're slugging at a high rate or you're doing both, usually it's reflected in your OPS. And so Ryder Helfrich, OPS over 900 right now, which for a catcher, for a sophomore, like that's big time stuff. His batting average sitting right at 270 on the year. So again, maybe not the highest mark in the world, but a mark that you'll certainly live with for your catcher, especially when he's got 5 home runs, 2 of which came this weekend. So on the year, Ryder Helfrich is slugging it right at, let me make sure I'm getting this number right here. Ryder Helfrich slugging 537 this year, which is even higher than Cam Kojal's slugging percentage. And Cam Kojal, been one of Arkansas's most productive hitters. We all agree on that. Helfrich's been slugging it really well. He also draws a pretty fair amount of walks. Now, again, he does strike out, but he's worked 12 walks. Justin Thomas has worked 13 as well. I feel like both of those guys, that's been what's kind of kept them going in this lineup is they work their walks. And so now that Ryder's starting to get it going, had a 3-hit game on Saturday, had a 2-hit game on Sunday. He's now hitting over 300 through 6 SEC games. Small sample size, no doubt about it. But I really like some of the strides I'm seeing from Helfrich. And again, this guy's a true sophomore. He was viewed as one of the best catching prospects in his high school class. He's viewed as one of the best catching prospects in his current class. This time next year, think about how much better Ryder Helfrich is now than he was a year ago when he was hitting like 160. So you can kind of let your imagination run wild. Think about what he might look like this time next year. I think he's a guy that by the end of his sophomore year, we will have a lot more understanding of kind of what he brings to the table as a baseball player. And again, I'm pleased with the progress. I thought he had an awesome weekend. I rambled a little bit there, but that's my first winner of the weekend, Ryder Helfrich. Charles Davalon, this one will take a lot less time because I think we're all on the same with Charles Davalon. The dude's nasty. Once again, just remains scorching hot. How long can a hitter remain hot before we're just all in agreement that he's very good? The dude goes 7 for 13 this weekend, hits 2 home runs, hits a double, has 3 walks, scores 7 runs, out of the leadoff position, scores 7 runs and drives in 4. Charles Davalon, 7 for 13. Most guys, they go 7 for 13 and it massively affects their batting average. Like Ryder Helfrich went 6 for 12 this weekend and it took his batting average up a good bit. But when you're hitting 400, really not that much for you to go up. So Charles Davalon, even after the great weekends, I think his batting average went from like 402 to 408. He had 4 hits in the opener, was really good there, hit 2 home runs, like I said. The guy, and I think both of his home runs were to opposite field. He also had a pretty big, you want to talk about a crazy story. Charles Davalon had one of the biggest moments in the series. South Carolina's Sunday starter, Dylan Eskew, right-handed senior who pitched pretty well against Arkansas last year, was scheduled to throw on Sunday. Charles Davalon hits a home run in Saturday's game that goes into the left field bullpen, hits Eskew in the head, and gives him a concussion, puts him in concussion protocol. They winded up having to throw their midweek starter on Sunday, and Arkansas ended up faring pretty well against them. Impacts the game in more ways than one. Charles Davalon continues to just kind of set the tone for this Razorback lineup at the top of that order, man. Really encouraging stuff. Really pleased with what we've been seeing from him. Next up, Justin Thomas, again, a guy that has kind of, at this point, I feel like certainly earned his way into that everyday lineup. Been really good for Arkansas in center field defensively. Made a couple nice plays this weekend. Charles Davalon also made almost a really, really good play, diving catch out there and left. But Justin Thomas goes 5 for 11. He has the big home run, which came in the bottom of the 8th inning on Sunday's game. And it was a 4-4 game when he hit that home run. So a 2-run home run in an 11-4 game probably doesn't seem like a big deal. It was 4-4 when he hit it, and it was an 0-2 pitch, gets a breaking ball over the heart of the plate. Really good stuff there from Justin Thomas. Also had a double, also worked a walk. Coming out of the 9-hole, driving in 6 runs and scoring 4 more. He drove in 2 runs in each game this weekend. I thought this was a big-time weekend for Justin Thomas. You want to talk about improving your average? Guy takes his average from 250 on the year to 291 with his efforts this weekend. Just been really solid for Arkansas. Been really, really just doing enough offensively. That's kind of the term I've used for him when I'm talking about his offensive play. Because again, he's in there for his athleticism, in there for his defense, similar to Nolan Souza. So anytime you're getting production out of those guys, I feel like it's a huge plus. I felt like coming into the weekend, I think I spoke about it on the preview. I felt like Arkansas getting any type of punch from Helfrich, Souza, Thomas, it's like a bonus. If those guys who are hitting 7, 8, 9 in the order, 2 sophomores and a junior, in there for their defense for the most part. Anytime you're getting offense from those guys, it's going to kind of take you over the top, makes this lineup even harder. All 3 of those guys swung the bat really well this weekend. There's another, also worth noting, Arkansas went with the same lineup in 3 games this weekend, which sounds like a normal thing, but if you've been watching Arkansas this year, has not really been the case. They've been rotating it pretty consistently, whether it's Davalon in left, then Davalon in center, and maybe Maxwell's in right, then maybe Maxwell DHs, maybe Maxwell goes to left field and Diggs goes in at right field. Maybe you have Pepe at first, maybe you have Kojal at second, maybe you have Kojal at first. There's been a lot of things moving parts in this Razorback lineup. This weekend, they stuck with the same group 3 times. Now, of course, Rocco Pepe, by the way, who's a little bit banged up, that contributed to that, certainly. Kendall Diggs also hasn't been swinging the bat super well. And, with these outfielders, with the way Davalon and Logan Maxwell are swinging in, I don't think either of those dudes are coming out of the lineup. I thought it was very important for Justin Thomas to make the most of those 3 starts, and he certainly did that. So not only is he a winner for the production that he had, I feel like he pretty much, at least at this point in the season, secured his spot in the starting lineup. Now, again, success isn't owned. It's leased, and rent is due every day. He's going to have to keep making that production happen, but good to see him making things happen. He's a spark plug is what he is. And so when he has success, it just makes this team way better. Obviously, anytime you have anybody have success, it's good. But I feel like when Justin Thomas comes up with a big hit, it gives the crowd, it gives this dugout just a little bit more juice. And he certainly provided a lot of juice in that bottom of the 8th on Sunday. Moving on to the pitching side of things, back-to-back now. I guess Charles Davalon's a back-to-back winner. Aiden Jimenez is also a back-to-back winner. Comes into the game on Saturday. Gabe Gackle, who I'm sure we'll talk about here in a minute, had another little bit of a rough outing. Got some tough luck, if I'm being honest with you, in terms of Gackle. But he ends up leaving the game with 2 outs in the 2nd inning. They throw Aiden Jimenez in there into a game that was kind of starting to get away from Arkansas a little bit. Things were starting to get a little bit hairy. Of course, Arkansas had scored 8 runs in the 1st inning, so they had a little bit of a cushion. But clearly Arkansas was not trying to mess around. Gave Gackle a pretty short leash. They end up going to Aiden Jimenez, who calms things down, gets Arkansas out of the inning. He ends up going 4 1/3, gives up 4 hits, does not walk anybody, does not allow a run, ends up with 4 strikeouts. I thought it was another big-time performance for him, and this is a reminder, Aiden Jimenez went 3 innings last week against, who the hell did Arkansas play last week? Ole Miss. Goes 3 innings, ends up getting, I guess it was his first career save. Really good outing. To see him come out and build on that, do it twice in a row, a little bit more secure in his spot there in the circle of trust. I think this is also big. So again, we're talking about Gackle, who he came in for. I don't know what Arkansas is going to do with Gabe Gackle. Dave looked pissed when he went to go take the ball from Gabe. I was a little surprised watching it on my phone with no sound. I don't know if there was, the commentators had their thoughts on it or whatever. I was a little surprised he yanked him. But again, I think that he'll probably get another opportunity on the starting rotation, depending on Gage Wood's availability. But we'll see what Arkansas does with Gabe Gackle. I kind of offhand mentioned Aiden Jimenez as a potential weekend starter. And a guy that was, of course, in the mix at Oregon State, was a potential weekend starter there as well. If you're going to try and get into that mix, the outing that Aiden Jimenez had the other day where he really calmed things down, is throwing a ton of strikes. I mean, that's 7 1/3 he's thrown in SEC play, 0 walks, 0 runs. Like, that's big time stuff. And he's striking out a good bit of guys. Stuff is firm. He mixes speeds, fills up the zone. Left-handed, right-handed, it doesn't really matter. Now, Aiden Jimenez did get a little bit of a benefit. He had a bases-loaded 1-out jam there, and I don't remember what inning that was. Gets a line drive to Vahiva Aloy, who ends up making one of the best defensive plays of the weekend. So that line could have looked a little bit less gaudy. But at the end of the day, Aiden Jimenez came in and did his job, just settled the game down for Arkansas, gave them some length. He had a 3-inning outing last weekend, goes 4 1/3. doesn't seem to fade at all as he works into this thing. And so we'll see if Arkansas builds him up, see what that pitch count can end up being, and if he's going to end up just being a middle long relief guy, or if that's maybe someone they want to try out in that starting role. Of course, you've got Gabe Gackle, who again I think is very talented. I still am like very firm that it's not time to close the book on Gabe Gackle. Like, I think he's going to be fine in some form or fashion, and he's still a true sophomore. You also got Gage Wood potentially coming back into that mix, and so we'll see what it looks like. But Aiden Jimenez, at the absolute very least, has given Arkansas some stability in their pitching staff, which, as we all know, they desperately need right now. And speaking of stability, Zach Root gets the ball in game one once again for Arkansas. Did not go well for him last week at Ole Miss. Gave up 10 hits, 7 runs, really got roughed up and really put this pitching staff in peril a little bit. He goes 7 innings with that, which wound up being a complete game. Those 92 pitches in those 7 innings, allows 6 hits, 2 runs, walks 1, strikes out 7. He gave up those 2 runs in the middle innings. I guess it was the 4th and 5th, or 5th and 6th. I can't remember. Gave up 1 apiece. Both of those had a massive lead. I think one of them was a walk that came around to score on a double, or came around to score after a double and a ground out. Another was a leadoff base hit that came around to score eventually. Neither of those really mattered that much. Like it took it from like a 9-1 game to a 9-2 game, something like that. And so Root, who I had somebody comment the other day on the show and was like, Root's got to clean up the walks, which I thought was just very funny because Zach Root has 9 walks in 31 1/3 innings of work. That's one of the best walk rates among starters in the entire country. And it's definitely a big part of his game, big part of what he's been doing. And I feel like the 1 walk number coming away from that 7-inning complete game is the one that really jumps out to me. I said that word stability. That's what Zach Root brings. I mean, he's a strike thrower. You know he's going to mix speeds. How many times do you have these starters who come into these games and then at the end of the game, it doesn't go well for them and they say, just didn't have great command for my slider, just didn't really have great command on this, or, oh, my fastball command wasn't there. That's something you really don't ever hear with Zach Root. Like, not saying he's going to be great every time, but he's going to have all 4 pitches available no matter what. Like, he's going to mix them. His changeup, I thought, was his best pitch on Friday against a lineup that, by the way, had 8 right-handed hitters in the lineup against Zach Root. They tried to kind of load it up, a little platoon thing against Zach Root, see if they can get after him a little bit. He had that changeup working. He's got so many weapons that he's able to mix in against different teams, against different opponents, different matchups. I think that kind of makes him a well-rounded option where we don't have to sit back each weekend and say, how does he match up with this guy? How does he match up with this team? He kind of has the weapons to get anybody out, left, right, switch, indifferent, doesn't matter. And so I think that's awesome. Good to see him bounce back because, again, this Razorback pitching staff, they really need some of that. Landon Beidelshees is not a winner of the weekend. I couldn't give him a win. He wasn't great in his outing on Sunday, but I thought him being able to battle through 5 innings was also a pretty good sign. You combine that with Zach Root, and Arkansas still has a lot to figure out with the starting rotation. But I think it was a much more encouraging weekend from that standpoint, particularly with those 2 left-handed starters. And so Zach Root, who I believe has been a winner of the weekend like 3 or 4 times so far in the early going, certainly been Arkansas's best starter. That Ole Miss game, certainly the big outlier there. His ERA is sitting at 4.02 right now, and so I imagine that's going to drop a little bit more as the season goes on. I hope we're able to look back and look at that Ole Miss outing and just be like, this is a one-off, just random thing that happened. And if you look at the rest of his outings, pretty much is. I mean, we'll just go through it game by game real quick. He goes 5 innings, 1 run against Washington State, 5 innings, 1 run against TCU, 5 1/3, 3 runs against Charlotte, 6 scoreless innings against Portland, 7 innings, 2 runs against South Carolina, and then just a random 7 runs, 10 hits, 3 innings of work against Ole Miss. Certainly looks like an outlier, but we'll see. I mean, of course, it's ultimately up to him to prove that he can get these SEC hitters out consistently. With that, let's take a look at our circle of trust real quick. So this is the updated circle of trust. The only updates I've really had here, I have removed Cole Gibbler from the left-handed options. One, I love Cole Gibbler. I actually think he's been throwing the ball pretty well. I just don't know if we haven't seen him on the weekend here lately. I don't think I can confidently and honestly and objectively say he's in the circle of trust if Arkansas is not using him in any type of high leverage situations. Will they down the stretch? I think they could. I think he's got the stuff. I think he's got the mentality, the makeup to do it. But until that happens, I don't know if I can honestly keep him in the circle of trust. So I took him out of the left-handed options. I also took Christian Fauch out of the closing options. For those that are not watching on YouTube, I'll just go ahead and give you the quick rundown. You got Zach Root, Gabe Gackel, Landon Beidelshe's there in the starters section. Your left-handed options, I've got Parker Coyle and Colin Fisher, Colin Fisher did not throw this past weekend, but he threw really well in the midweek. I think he's ultimately going to be a guy they continue to use on the weekends. Just a little bit of a weird weekend here where you only had to use like 6 pitchers. In our mid to long relief righties section, I've got Aiden Jimenez, no doubt about that. Will McIntyre, who also threw the ball really well, got a save on Saturday through 3 innings. He's an honorable mention winner of the weekend. He's no doubt in that circle of trust. And then I've got Bibee / Carter for the last spot. Dylan Carter's, it's a little bit tough and a little bit unfair to him because he's thrown 10 2/3 innings this year, struck out 10, has a 1.69 ERA, has only given up 2 runs, both of which came in that Ole Miss game. And one of those runs was given up when he was not even on the mound. Tate McGuire had 2 outs, had a chance to save him, did not. So I feel bad because Dylan Carter, with the way he's pitched and just the effectiveness he's had, should probably be a no doubt circle of trust guy. But again, I kind of go off the weekends. If you're not being used in high leverage situations on the weekends, I don't know if I can firmly, no doubt about it, have you in that circle of trust. And Ben Bibee, who, by the way, is a new addition to this group. Ben Bibee, some of you may be surprised by that, and that's completely fair. One, he threw really well in the midweek. He threw 4 innings, struck out 5 on Tuesday against Oral Roberts, only had 1 hit in that one. That is really not why he's in the circle of trust. He's in the circle of trust because they brought him back in a high leverage situation. It was 4-2 in the 6th inning of Sunday's series finale. And of course, not necessarily a late inning situation, but that's high leverage to me. Ben Bibee comes in, I think he faced 3 hitters total because he ended up getting a double play ball to get him out of the inning, gave up a base hit to start it, I believe. I thought Ben Bibee got the job done. Nothing crazy. Aiden Jimenez, we saw him have a similar outing a couple weeks ago. I believe that was against Portland, where he comes in a high leverage situation. It was very similar. It was 6-4 in the 6th or 7th inning. And he ends up getting 3 outs. So it's an outing that in and of itself may not be that big of a deal. But for me, it's more about the fact that they went to him there and the fact that he didn't suck there. I feel like bodes well for him. Again, Ben Bibee is a guy that we've been kind of wondering, is he ever going to take that step from midweek guy to actual piece on the weekends? I think this week was a step in the right direction for him. One, he combined to throw 5 scoreless innings on the week, which is always something to be noted. But the fact that he pitched on the midweek and then they also used him on the weekend and he came through for Arkansas in a nice spot, I think that should be rewarded. And so we'll see if he continues to get some more looks on the weekend. Believe it or not, I really do think Ben Bibee has the stuff to do it. He throws a ton of strikes. I really like his fastball. It's his breaking ball that he throws in 2-strike counts that gets hit time and time and time again. Feels like almost every hit he's given up this year was an 0-2 breaking ball or a 1-2 breaking ball. The one hit he gave up on Sunday was an 0-2 breaking ball. And so he's still there's still some things that need to be cleaned up. But ultimately, I think Bibee certainly has the stuff to do it. I mean, his fastball is pretty electric. It's in that 93, 95 range, has a lot of spin on it. He gets most of his swings and misses come on that fastball. And he certainly had it working against Ole Miss. And so in SEC play now so far, Ben Bibee's been used for 3 innings. He is not allowed to run. He's looked pretty good. That at least warranted him to be in this mix. And I kind of combined him and Carter because I think Carter's also, one, he's been pitching pretty well, going to continue to get some looks at some point. And so we'll see if that becomes one spot or if maybe both guys are able to earn a spot. But the one guy I had to take off and pulling this back up here real quick, I had closers. I had Carson Wiggins and Christian Fauch in this range from start to finish all year. I now have removed Christian Fauch from the circle of trust. Again, I a lot of times I'm giving my opinions on these guys, but when I'm making the circle of trust, I'm really going off of what the coaches do each weekend. And based on how Christian Fauch's outing went and how Dave Van Horn reacted to it, I don't know if there's a more clear sign that he is not necessarily in that circle of trust. Can he get back in? No doubt about it. You want to talk about stuff. I mean, he hit a guy with a 100-mile-an-hour fastball the other day. The first pitch he threw was 100 right at the guy's head. I mean, he's got the stuff. We saw him be effective last year. We've seen Christian Fauch be effective before, but there's just some work that needs to be done there. He's had pretty much, I don't know if he's had a clean outing all year. Outside of maybe against Oral Roberts the other day, he threw the ball okay, but he just hasn't really had much consistency there. The command is still a ways to go, still a work in progress. I still don't know if he has more than one, maybe two pitches. The splitter we see every now and then, but it's kind of become more of a mythical thing than it is an actual thing we see in practice regularly. Everyone you talk to on the team's like, hey, he's got this disgusting splitter. And you see it here and there. We've seen him get some swings and misses with it. But it's not a consistent weapon that he brings to the mound with him every game. And the fastball command is certainly not something that goes to the mound with him every game. I've been a Christian Fouch defender. I felt like there's certainly a role for him on this Arkansas team, and hell, they're trying like hell to make it happen. They're giving him opportunity after opportunity in these high leverage spots to show that he can be that guy. He's obviously been usurped as the closer. I think Carson Wiggins, who by the way was really good the other day, I thought he was awesome, continues to take positive strides. There's no doubt about it. Carson Wiggins is this team's closer as it stands today, and we'll see how long that lasts moving forward. But so Fouch has already been kind of usurped in that role, and it seems like some of these other right-handed arms, like Aiden Jimenez, like a Will McIntyre, hell, even like the Carter and Bibees of the world, like they're starting to kind of work more and more, getting more and more work on the weekends, and Fouch is struggling to make do in the innings that he's getting. It's going to be funny because, I mean, Arkansas had a guy last year, by the way, in Jake Faraday, who I think threw like 14, 15 innings or something like that, and ended up getting drafted in the 11th round. We could see something like that this year where Fouch ends up throwing 12 innings, but he ends up getting drafted in like the 7th round. Like, that's very much a possibility. Hell, this dude might pitch in the big leagues one day. And that's not just me being like a homer. Like, seriously, like he has the stuff to do it. Scouts love him. It's just kind of frustrating that it hasn't really translated to consistent weekend work that Arkansas knows they can count on. And so when you have a guy that throws 100, you'd really like to find a role for him. But as of right now, I just don't know how in good faith and good conscience I could keep him in that circle of trust. Now let's talk about this Arkansas lineup for a little bit. We talked about the pitching, which again, I think we're all generally on the same page. And there's a couple other guys that I didn't mention that I feel like could get some looks there. I mean, Cole Gibbler, of course, is a guy that I really like the stuff there. Tate McGuire threw the ball pretty well against Oral Roberts. I think he threw 3 innings in that game. He's been solid for Arkansas. We've also seen him in some high leverage situations, and we'll see if he ends up getting that nod before. But from a pitching staff standpoint, I think we kind of know the situation. We kind of know who we're looking for. We'll see. By the way, Gage Wood, Dave was pretty adamant going into the series on Wednesday when he was asked about it. He said Gage Wood obviously was not going to be available for this past weekend, which he was not, but he was very adamant about it, which made me a little nervous. And he said that there was still some soreness, which made me extremely nervous. So we're in wait and see mode on Gage Wood. We're also in wait and see mode on Hunter Dietz, who's another guy that we've talked about on this show a good bit. Would be an arm that would certainly be a factor in all these discussions. That whole conversation, I didn't even talk about Parker Coyle, who just continues to be Parker Coyle, comes in, gets the job done, puts out fires. His ERA is now down to 0.6 on the year. 15 strikeouts, 15 innings, 1 run. That's big time stuff. But anyways, I think we're all kind of on the same page with this pitching staff, or at least the same general vicinity. We understand the situations here. But again, like I said, let's talk about this lineup a little bit. So again, coming into the year, the expectations were that Arkansas would have an improved offense, which, of course, you look at the last two, especially in 2024 when they were 11th, 12th, in pretty much every SEC offensive category. And this was before they had 16 teams. This was out of 14 teams. Arkansas was bottom 5 in every single category. So we were like, okay, they'll be improved, but how much improved? You know, will they be in that middle of the pack of the SEC, which frankly, I thought this pitching staff was going to be better. That probably would have been enough for me. If Arkansas were 6, 7, 8 in most SEC offensive categories, I probably would have been like, cool. Like that's fine with me. Get the pitching figured out. Let's go to Omaha. That's underselling this team. They've been unbelievable offensively. So just looking at the overall numbers here, now these are all games ranking SEC teams throughout the entire season. Arkansas is second in the SEC with a 332 batting average. They're third in the SEC with a 605 slugging percentage. They're fourth in OBP, on base percentage, that is, at 445. So again, OPS is like my thing. I don't know if there's a site that actually tracks OPS, but it's slugging plus on base percentage. So Arkansas is third in slugging, fourth in on base percentage. So if you add those two things up, like I think that tells a pretty good story of where Arkansas's offense is at. And in home runs, they are third in the league so far. And so look, they're dead last in stolen bases, by the way. But this offense has been, to say they're improved is an understatement. They've been one of the most dynamic and consistent offenses in the SEC. In conference play, by the way, Arkansas is leading the SEC in average by a fat margin. They're at 366. The next highest is LSU at 326. Arkansas leads the SEC in slugging percentage in conference games at 634. They're fourth in the SEC in on-base percentage for conference games at 419. They are second in scoring overall with 42 runs, behind Georgia at 44. They are second to Georgia also in home runs. Georgia's got 12. Arkansas's got 11. By the way, that Georgia team who just put a whooping on Florida, just swept them. I think they run-ruled them twice. They did to Florida, a top 10 team, what Arkansas just did to South Carolina. And so that Georgia team, keep your eye on them. Of course, we know Wes Johnson's over there. We know Arkansas is going to go to Athens here in a couple weeks. And so that's going to be an interesting series between the two teams that are basically number one and number two in every offensive category that you look at. Also, here's what I love about this, just individually. I think we've all been kind of waiting for Arkansas to have those guys who put up the numbers. I mean, you see like a guy like Christian Moore last year at Tennessee hits like 40 home runs. You have all these guys that are, Jack Caglione and Tommy White, Dylan Cruz, like these guys that just put up crazy numbers. And for so many years, fans have been wondering in Arkansas, like, how come we don't have guys like that? Like, we have pretty good line, some decent hitters here and there. Peyton Stovall's fine, Ben McLaughlin's fine, but like, where are those guys that teams really fear? And that was a big question. If y'all remember back in the offseason, we were doing all these preview pods and kind of assessing how good Arkansas was going to be. And that was one of my biggest questions is like, is Arkansas going to have that star power? Are they going to have those guys that you have to circle? Just taking a quick glance through some of these SEC offensive stats in terms of individual leaders, batting average, Kahio Aloy, 6th in the SEC, 417. Charles Davalon, 8th in the SEC, 404. Vahiva Aloy, 396, 10th in the SEC. You got 3 of the top 10 averages in the league. You got 3 of the top 10 slugging percentages in the league. Vahiva Aloy, 4th in that regard, 812. Brent Iredell, 5th, 808. Kahio Aloy, 8th, 798. On base percentage, Brent Iredell, Kahio Aloy, they're 7th and 12th, respectively. Runs scored, Charles Davalon leads the SEC in runs scored. He's tied with somebody, tied at 40 there. Vahiva Aloy also 6th at 32. RBI, Brent Iredell, Kahio Aloy, Vahiva Aloy right in there. So you're hearing some of the same names, of course, with Charles Davalon mixed in there. Home runs, same thing. Vahiva Aloy, 4th in the league with 10. Brent Iredell, 6th in the league with 9. Kahio Aloy, 11th in the league with 8. A number I like, total bases, just the overall amount of bases. Vahiva Aloy, 2nd in the SEC with 82 total bases, which for a shortstop, that's just silly. Kahio Aloy, 8th in this regard at 67. Charles Davalon, 9th in the SEC in total bases with 64. So again, it's a lot of the 3 or 4 same guys, the Aloy brothers, Iredell, Charles Davalon. Logan Maxwell's had a really good year, but he's not quite there in that like top 15 of the SEC and stuff. But to answer the question that I was saying earlier, Arkansas does have that star power. These are guys, when you see guys start popping up on these lists and they're on every list in the SEC, you're going to circle them a little bit. You're going to maybe pitch around them, which, by the way, speaking of pitching around, Kahio Aloy got intentionally walked on Sunday. They end up hitting, Brent Iredell ends up hitting a grand slam. Brent Iredell, by the way, had 2 hits this weekend, a 3-run home run and a grand slam. So he goes 2 for like 12 on the weekend, drives in 7 runs, and had as big a hand in Arkansas winning the series as anybody. You just love to see that. I think that the term I kept seeing floated around on Sunday was pick your poison. And that's kind of where we're at with this Arkansas lineup, where, again, years past, really just wasn't that much poison to be picking around. I feel like opposing pitching staffs were able to confidently just come right at this Arkansas team. Arkansas has always drawn a ton of walks. They've been one of the better, walk rates in the SEC, even in the years they've really struggled. Like even last year, they drew a fair amount of walks. I always felt like Arkansas's kryptonite were those pitchers who really did attack the zone and didn't have command issues. Like if you have good command, you were going to be able to get Arkansas out for the most part. And we saw mid-majors hold Arkansas down. I mean, we saw mid-major in their season in SEMO. We saw elite pitchers hold Arkansas down. And I'm not saying that Arkansas is not going to get shut down by anybody all year long, but you just feel like with this offense, when opposing teams are facing them, someone's going to get them. At some point, they're going to break through. And really, the numbers are nice, and we love all the gaudy stats and the home runs and the exit velocities and the batting average and like all this cool stuff. Really, for me, it really comes down to the quality of at-bats. And that's one thing that Arkansas, even in the innings they don't score on the weekends, you see him just working that pitch count. I mentioned the midweek starter that South Carolina wound up having to throw on Sunday. And he actually battled pretty well from him. Pretty good young left-handed arm. Kind of like the type of matchup that always kind of makes you nervous, that lefty that's like 88, 89, that throws a good changeup. He can mix speeds and, any pitch, any count type of guy. There was an inning where Arkansas, I think Charles Davalon hit a home run. I can't remember who it was. I think it was Charles Davalon hits a home run, and then Arkansas gets 2 quick outs from there. And then Logan Maxwell had like a 13-pitch single. And then Brent Iredell had like a 10-pitch walk. And I can't remember who it was, or maybe it was Kahio Aloy that had the 10-pitch single. And then I think it was Brent Iredell that eventually struck out, but it was after 8 or 9 pitches. Even an inning like that, which on the scoreboard, on paper, might not be a super gaudy inning, you're making that guy work. South Carolina's starter on Friday night ended up being out of the game by the 4th inning. They just consistently wear these dudes down. It's never an easy inning. It's never an easy out. They just seem to make you earn every out you're going to get. And of course, you're facing good pitching. These guys are going to earn it. I just think top to bottom, man, there's just more threats than I think we've ever seen with this Razorback lineup, to the point where you've got 2 seniors, a right-handed hitter and a left-handed hitter in Rocco Pepe and Kendall Diggs, who are like odd men out of the lineup, like literally might not be in this lineup every day. 2 guys that, hell, even in the fall, I couldn't have even imagined Rocco Pepe not being in this lineup every day. But it's the way it shook out. Guys just keep stepping up, keep getting the job done. I also think Arkansas, by the way, first in the SEC by a fat margin in fielding percentage. They're 988 on the year. The number 2 fielding percentage in the SEC is 983, which may not sound like a big margin. Arkansas's career or program record is 981. And so, I mean, like, you 5 percentage points. That's a big gap there. So Arkansas's playing great defense. Their pitching staff, by the way, which we all agree is, underperformed, maybe a little bit shaky. We're still a little bit worried about it. Arkansas's 5th in the SEC in overall ERA. They're a little bit lower than that in SEC games, but like, even with all of the injuries, all of the rough starts they've gotten, all of the shakiness from certain guys in the bullpen, all of these guys they've had to have step up in huge moments when they didn't expect it, Arkansas still is in the top half of the SEC in terms of pitching numbers. Most of them, they're kind of middle of the pack in a lot of them. I think they're like 9th or 10th in strikeouts, like 8th or 9th in opponent batting average, something like that. But I feel like there's room to grow there. And with the way Arkansas plays defense, I never thought I'd say this, or at least coming into the year, Arkansas has a good enough lineup to kind of bail them out in a lot of these games. And we've seen that happen here in SEC play, but I do think there's going to be a point where the pitching staff won't force them to have to bail them out. I think Arkansas, and we saw that a little bit against South Carolina this weekend. I mean, I'm kind of being hard on the pitching staff. They threw the ball fairly well. Outside of Gabe Gackle, I thought they threw the ball great. And Landon Beidelshees wasn't outstanding, but worked through 5 innings for Arkansas. And then outside of that, you just had the 2 runs given up by Fouch. Even then, you have 4 runs on Sunday, where they give up 3 on Saturday. They give up 2 or 3. Was it 2 on Friday? Like, the pitching staff held down South Carolina pretty well. Now, again, they're going to face tougher competition, but I think this upcoming weekend against Vanderbilt, a team that is kind of, weirdly enough, they're kind of like the Arkansas of last year, where you look at the numbers and you're like, they're not that great anywhere, but they just keep winning. That's kind of what Vanderbilt has going on. They're basically bottom 5 or 6 in every offensive category. And so I think it's an opportunity for this pitching staff to pick up the tab for once with this offense that's been crushing and just, beating up on every pitching staff they can see. Vanderbilt's been pitching the ball really, really well in the early going here. And so perhaps one of the toughest tests this lineup has faced all year coming up. We'll see if this pitching staff can maybe pick them up a little bit. But in terms of just big picture, how do we feel about this team? I'd like to hear from you guys, of course, as always. And again, I appreciate you guys for sticking with me. And if you're still listening at this point, almost 50 minutes in, I've been rambling a little bit. I appreciate you, man, and I'm going to hopefully provide you with some more consistent, better content throughout the week. But I would love to know what you guys have to say about this. I just look at this team big picture. I try not to get too high or too low during baseball season because you just can't live that way. I'm always trying to think of like, okay, if we played a weekend series this weekend against the best team in the country, how would we match up? And when I do that with this Arkansas team, again, I'd really like to see Gabe Gackle just rattle off some consistency. I really did think he got a little bit of a raw deal there. He gives up the 2-out base hit that provides the first run, but then he gets a ground ball to Vahiva Aloy, who's been great, by the way, defensively, been one of the best shortstops in the country. That should be an out 9 times out of 10. He ends up kind of slow playing it, tosses the first, guy slides in there, and then the next pitch Gabe Gackle throws is a wild pitch that brings home a third run, and then he gets yanked. I felt a little bit bad because I feel like if Vahiva Aloy makes that play, which he makes 9 times out of 10, there's a chance Gabe probably goes 4 or 5 innings in that outing. I was a little surprised by the quick hook. And I know it's certainly not going to inspire a ton of confidence with the fan base. I would like to see Gabe Gackle have some consistency. Would like to see what Gage Wood can do coming back from injury. I thought he was throwing the ball awesome, throwing the ball the best he's ever thrown in his entire career before the injury. So we'll see if he can get back to that level. Hunter Dietz, I mentioned him a little bit. I like the way this back end of the bullpen kind of shakes out, even without Fouch, who I agree, like I took him out of the circle of trust. I think he's going to get some opportunities. We'll see if they can ever really get a consistent role out of him. But with Parker Coyle, who's been the kind of, diving on the bomb guy for Arkansas all year with that pitching staff, Carson Wiggins, who still a freshman, I'm sure he'll have his ups and downs, but from a stuff standpoint, about as good of a closer as you can have in the SEC. A guy like Aiden Jimenez, who's been money all year. You got some veterans in there that have done it and been there before. A couple other young arms that, like a Cole Gibbler, like a Tate McGuire. We'll see if they can kind of take that step up. But overall, I feel like Arkansas has enough pitching options on the mound because we always say that. We're like, man, do they really have enough guys? But every single weekend, they find enough guys to get through it. And so we'll see if that continues, especially if they're able to get a couple of these key arms back. But I feel pretty good about, from a pitching standpoint, how Arkansas can piece it together each weekend. And then again, the lineup just has flexibility, depth to it. They've got power. They don't steal a ton of bases, but they've got some speed on the base paths, although Bobby Warnes really likes to get them thrown out at home plate. They hit oppo. They hit for average. They hit doubles. They hit home runs. Like, if you guys have a question still about this team, and look, I'm not saying you shouldn't. I'm just like, I'm really like trying to think about this team going into the postseason. What is like your big question? Is it just as simple as Gabe Gackle's got to be a lot better on Saturday? If so, like, I can get behind that. I think that definitely is something that needs to happen. But again, you also kind of have Gage Wood sitting back there, so you might not even have to get consistency out of Gabe Gackle in a starting role. Maybe he does go back to that bullpen role that we saw him thrive in. But regardless, I just feel like I say this a lot. The cream is going to rise to the top, and Arkansas is going to have a much more definitive idea. Hell, we have a much more definitive idea now about our circle of trust pitching than we did a month ago. I think we have a much more definitive idea about the lineup, which again, we saw same lineup 3 times. We'll see if Arkansas ends up sticking with that, and maybe that takes it to another level where everyone just kind of knows their role. They don't have to check the lineup. Maybe that's how this plays out. But ultimately, I feel pretty good. I feel really encouraged about the bottom third of the lineup. Like I said earlier, the Souza, Helfrich, Thomas stretch, the way that those guys were able to show up and make it happen this weekend, and the top of the lineup continuing to do what they do. Brent Iredale really hadn't gotten going in SEC playing. So lots to be encouraged about for the Arkansas Razorbacks. I'm going to let you guys get out of here. I'm going to get out of here myself. Appreciate you guys for letting me ramble for a while. I was overdue for a baseball podcast, no doubt about it. And I had some takes to get off my chest. And so appreciate you guys for tapping in. Again, let me know what you guys think. I love hearing what you guys have to say, hearing your perspective on the team, and who you like, who you're worried about, what positions Arkansas needs to be better in. Because I know, we can never be totally 100% satisfied. So let me know what you guys think. Hope you've been enjoying the baseball season so far. Hope you're enjoying this March Madness run, man. Make sure you subscribe to this Inside Arkansas YouTube channel, man. It's going to be active throughout the week as we make the trek over to San Francisco. And so again, appreciate you guys for being here. Let's have a great week. Let's have a great Monday, and woo damn pig. See you guys later.